Hey everyone, we're gonna have a few minutes of a lag before I actually start the conversation because hello everyone, I think a couple of people have joined. I'm just gonna be waiting for Kanika, who's running slightly late because she is just arriving from a meeting. But in the meantime, let me tell you a little bit about what I am up to at the moment whilst I wait for Kanika. And I know that some of you have sent me a DM and talked a little bit about what I was up to with the book. If you're following Mysteries in Color, which I highly suggest you do because it's a really fun little platform that I have created for this crazy book that I created, which is... it's just a fun way to kind of experiment. There are ink blots. If you remember the adult coloring books where you had to kind of work within the lines, this allows you the freedom to color outside the lines. It's your choice. It's your page. There's no judgment. The beauty of it is that you can just create exactly what you want and there is no right or wrong. So I took out a page and all the pages are perforated. So I got this page out from the book and it's just a really fun and funky ink blot. And whilst I was waiting for Kanika, I decided to sit and work around this worksheet, and this is what I came up with. So here's the ink blot. And this is what I saw. I saw an alligator. You see the ink blot here? And then over here, I saw a bird and a duck and another bird. And if I had to turn it around, I'd see something completely different. So that's what I've been sitting and pottering around whilst I wait for Kanika to join us. But let me give you a little bit of a rundown of what we're going to talk about today. So today it's all about emerging artists, and I think we kind of touched upon the subject a week ago, actually 2 weeks ago, because I was away on a road trip last week. Saw a lot of Canada. In fact, coming from India, I always put things off thinking, I live here, I can see things whenever I feel like. So, but I haven't been to Rajasthan. I haven't seen the Taj Mahal. I haven't seen the Qutub Minar. So there are so many places in India that I haven't really been to. I haven't been to the north enough. I haven't been to Kerala. So when I see a lot of my Canadian friends who said, oh my goodness, Rajasthan was gorgeous, the colors and the fabric, I'm like, I feel terrible. So this summer, my husband and I decided that we're just going to go off on a road trip for 9 days and we are going to just explore Canada. So we did a couple of provinces, which was absolutely beautiful. We didn't book anything. We just hopped into the car and we just drove. And then I think 2 hours into getting to our destination, we just looked through Expedia and see what was available. And then we just hop in over there. And then just, that was it. It was comfortable. It was on my own agenda. I didn't have to worry about the stress of airports and aircrafts and masks and all of that. So, however, so today we're going to continue the conversation on emerging artists. And I know this is kind of, pricing has always been a very contentious topic. Of course, as a creative, I have a lot of friends who are artists, and sometimes I find that we don't value our work enough. There are times when we just tend to kind of underprice what we create. I don't think we take into account our creative process. It's not just all the tangible things that are expensive for an artist to have this sort of a practice, but it's also your, your creativity that is unique to you. It's like 3 of us can paint a landscape, but my unique style, the way I do it, the mediums I use, whatever, we just don't value the thought that goes into creating a piece. There are also artists who tend to overprice themselves and they kind of price themselves out of the market. So this conversation, whilst it is going to be Yes, 100%. I agree. Extraordinary choices. But there are times I think this conversation will lead to a few discussions. But at the end of the day, I think it's really important that we do the research, kind of see if you've been in as an artist for maybe 3 years or 4 years, and if you're creating, say, two-dimensional work on canvas or on board, or figure out what the pricing is that they have priced it at of similar pieces or similar sizes. Also check the history of where they have exhibited. Has it been locally? Has it been outside of their country of choice? Do they have representation? All of those factors matter, and then you have to make your own decision. Because sometimes when I see abstracts, and I was really terrible when I first started my practice, and I'd look at an abstract and I go, what is this? Makes no sense. But there is a lot of thought that's gone into that abstract. The colors, the color palette, the focal points, what drew them to an abstract. So whilst I'm not a completely abstract person, I do appreciate it. I am a sort of a figurative abstract. So even when I go abstract, like I said, this book that I created, it's all ink blots. But this is how I start my work. But then I need to add some sort of dimension. I need to add some sort of form to it for me to connect with it. But this is what I'm saying. This is me. So I need to figure out that, okay, I've spent this amount of time actually pondering this, looking through stuff. So value the time you've spent in creating that work, whatever it could be. It could be a small pencil sketch, but what drew you to doing that? So keeping the dollars and dimes aside, that is really an important part of how you price your work. There's one topic that I will talk to Kanika about, and when we say emerging artists, let's not put the ego into it, because there were times when I did that too. I absolutely did that. I would go, but I have 20 years of experience. I'm not an emerging artist, but I could be slotted as an emerging artist in a whole different country, in a whole different environment where people don't know about me. Now, whilst we have to keep our pricing consistent, so say you sell a 30 by 30 piece for, say, $5,000, a 30 by 30 inches. That might be too much for a different country. Say I've been asked to exhibit, say, in France. They don't know me. Now, would I have some introductory price to say, okay, I normally sell a 30 by 30, but because you guys don't know me and this is a new market for me, this new audience for me, is it going to be, I'm going to slash it by half? I don't think that's right. But that now, I think, and that's what I'm going to talk to Kanika about, that is something we would have to discuss. And that is something I think whoever is representing you or has decided to organize that show for you in that country should perhaps market you in a way to say, this is an artist who is an emerging artist in this audience, in this country perhaps, but has been exhibiting for the last 20 years. Her works hang in XYZ homes. She's exhibited internationally. So they know, because if you just put yourself as an emerging artist in a new country, why would that audience want to pay $5,000 for your work when perhaps an established artist in that country is selling their work, who they know of, for about $3,500, $4,000? So I think with the pricing and the representation, I think the marketing and what is written about you is just as important. So, and I think that's always such a conundrum for me. I've in fact, currently I am exhibiting in 2 different countries. And my price points are exactly the same as they are on my website, but it definitely is up to the person who is representing me there, who has to talk about it in that fashion. And they have asked me for my bios, they've asked me for an artist statement. and the story behind the collection that I have in those countries. So I think a lot of factors are supposed to be in place before we figure out our pricing. And I think Kanika is here, so I am going to just... Hi.
I am so sorry for this.
That's okay. I told our audience that you were just rushing back from a meeting, so that's all good.
A million apologies to everybody. I'm not usually so ill-mannered on timing, but it just didn't work for me today.
No worries. No worries. I was kind of giving them the lowdown on our conversation today, and also talking about the various components in pricing. So, but first of all, Kanika, let's, I think I'm seeing a few new people. So I sort of told them a little bit about myself, but let me begin again now that we have Kanika on. My name is Mahzareen, and I've been yapping away for the last 10 minutes with all of you. I'm a fine artist, no worries. And I'm based in Toronto, Ontario. And I kind of introduced the book, and I was telling them that I was working off this ink blot and creating some crazy stuff whilst I waited for you. But Kanika, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then I'm diving into the conversation.
Okay, quickly for everybody. A million apologies for having all of you wait. I began as a art buyer, converted to a gallery owner, created an art lounge, an art fair, an artist program, and here I am. I've been trying to phrase how to encapsulate where I'm at, and the three words that come to me are create, curate, consult. So yeah, that sums me up.
The triple C, absolutely. Yeah, and that really does. That's true. It does.
Thank you. Where are we at? What are we targeting today?
So today we are going to continue the conversation. I was just telling the audience that I was away for a week, and it's normally, we put aside the country we are in. I was saying, being an Indian, I thought, oh, I can see the Taj anytime. I can see this anytime. And I never did. And now I'm in Canada, and I decided, okay, this week-long vacation, road tripping across Canada. So we wanted to continue the conversation on emerging artists. And my introduction to this with them was the pricing. We don't take into account the intellectual property that we put out as an artist. So the one question that I really wanted to address, because I had that question, and in one of our DMs after our last conversation, was when you are in a different country that doesn't know you, I completely agree that the pricing has to be consistent. What's on your website has to be wherever you're exhibiting. But I know that a lot of components are absolutely needed when you're pricing. So if you are, I'm going to just say established artists, let's just for the sake of argument, like you've had about 20, 25 years of experience. People know you in a certain part of the world, say North America. But now we're going into Europe, or say India, and now we're going into the US. You're at a certain price point. And if you are, I imagine, so please correct me if I'm wrong, if you are in a different country with a different audience, and you are kind of slotted as an emerging artist in that it's an introduction to that art, to that artist in that new country with a new audience, why would that audience say, like the example I gave was, say a 30 by 30 inch painting costs 5,000 on your site. You've been selling that size for that amount. And that's one of the sizes that's on display in that country. Why would a audience or a buyer think that, why am I buying a $5,000 or euro or pound painting from this artist when there's an established artist who I've been following, whose work I love, and it's only at 3,000. So now, whilst I completely agree that the pricing shouldn't change, what are the components that should be kept in mind? Is it the marketing that is absolutely needed, where they have a good write-up leading up to the show? Like, what are the
And
components that one should think about?
I have a drift. Sorry, I don't mean to look all over the place, but I've been making notes, and I have a rough idea of what you're trying to say and where you're going with this. Um, and I know it must be very frustrating for you, like it is with my daughter, that I don't answer a question directly. It's been a weakness always. The reason I do that is because the answer has a cause. And the answer to your question actually dates back to the basic premise of the first chapter or the first episode of our conversation series, Borders. If you noticed your question, we're only speaking about a artist, a country, a area, a region. That theory sadly ended the day technology came into place, even pre-COVID, because all those shells, all those borders, all those capsules that we were in went boom. You are as good as your search engine on Mr. Google, correct? So where you are at, what you are doing, all that goes, just put that aside. When it comes to pricing, when it comes to play, when it comes to artists, I'll again give you an incident that happened with me 13 years back. At the time, I just got into doing art, and my primary focus was India because, of course, I lived in Delhi. And that's where I learned, and I remember, I'm not going to name the auction house, but I remember one of my earlier conversations with this gentleman at this particular auction house in London, and he asked me an upfront question, which I did not have an answer for. And he told me, he says, and the dynamics have changed since, but this, I'm talking to you about 12 to 13 years back. And he said, Kanika, India has in excess of 1 million artists. Why is it that only 10, 12 make it to the auctions? I then did not have an answer. I kept looking at his face and I was like, okay, he's making sense. And I for 2 minutes, I didn't want to agree with him. So I said, oh, okay, let me get back on this, because I'm not somebody who does well with not having an answer. And when I went and put down, looked at, but he was right. What is that bridge? Even today, all these borders and bridges that we're talking about, it's because artists or art communicators or art marketers or whatever it is, we've been giving different connotations to the channels that we use to market art. We restrict ourselves to our comfort zones. Now, with the result, that comfort zone is so comfortable that becomes your reality. So basically, if person A has been selling in A space, like I told you, and I've been narrating all these sessions, everybody knows me. Oh, my first started with my family buying. Their friends are buying. Now the circle is increasing. Is that a reality?
No, but I'm talking about a proper professional artist who has gone down the right route, who knows that this is where I want to be.
What in your, again, the right route is what?
No, okay, not friends have gone through the galleries initially, because we are, like you said, we are in a very different.
Again, we have this debate about, say, galleries and whatever. We're not naming channels today. I'm saying that if you have followed a practice of making yourself visible on a larger spectrum, then that is your international pricing. Then your pricing is not restricted to a zone. Then your pricing automatically will take the format, because, okay, I'm not saying, listen, there might be, I may feel that I know 3,000 plus artists today, but there may be 30,000 artists, I don't know. But that doesn't differ or change their pricing.
I agree. Kanika, that I agree. My question was that when we are tying in the pricing with an emerging artist,
correct,
what is the label people give when they are in a different country. Because whilst I completely agree, things have changed, Google, and you know that this is the pricing of the artist. However, I have still faced that, which is the question from me too. I have still faced that, oh, that might not sell. Well, then we shouldn't be doing the show. What I'm trying to say is, if artists want to exhibit, and people are still going across with their works, I mean, from Canada to LA, like I have a friend she's an artist, she has a show coming up on the West Coast. So she's going to be in California, and she's moving like from Toronto in September. So there is the physical works too that are going. And I have gone to art fairs and they say, oh, I have put a special pricing for the fair. Things like that. So what I'm trying to say is that's not what I would do, but I'm just saying that I'm really talking about the conversation on, would you be the emerging artist when you're in a different geographical area, if you've physically taken your work there, or if you're even not gone there, but a gallery said, okay, ship the work, I'm going to set it up because, say the UK, there is somewhere I want to exhibit in the UK at the moment. I know they would say, give me your pricing. They don't say, okay, go down on your pricing or give me a special price, whatever. That's not the case. The question is, would audiences do artists still face that? Because I don't know the answer to that. Do artists still face that, oh, this is an emerging artist, I don't know this artist, I don't think I want to spend so much on this art, even though they have the whole history on Google, all of that, they have not physically connected, they have not been to their shows often enough. Like, everything is online, I mean, they can Google anyone. So what do you think should be the mindset for artists when they are doing that?
Again, we have discussed this in bits earlier, and of course I've scribbled it thinking that I could show it on the screen, but it looks profile. It is the same format where I come back to myself and give you a very good reference. As an art expert, my experience adds a lot of value to who I am, which is why I am here today. Mm-hmm. That's the side of my story. The other side of my story is that if I were to put in a professional profile tomorrow and go seeking a job, I wouldn't get one. Even if I compare, I wouldn't even get a job of any of the 10 people or 5 people or 50 people I would have engaged in my career, because my profile reads entrepreneur. My profile does not read professional. What I keep going back to, and that is, trust me, the answer to all the questions you just put together. Once you have a profile, mm-hmm. Profile that you have created, your experience is listed there. Now, that determines if you have gone and showcased institutionally with respectable galleries, mm-hmm. That is your profile. It could be in any part of the world. It could be in any part of the world, but the fact is that's what you have done. Now, I can't take that away from you, and your pricing has to increase accordingly. Mm-hmm. What I see happening, an artist, and this junior, I don't want to label junior, senior, but an artist who's just set off in his career. Okay, fantastic. I did a charity auction. I don't know what. I reached an auction, and all of a sudden I'm seeing prices of $10,000, $15,000. Like, how? From where? What happened to, only because, just for the sake of speaking, and because you and what happened to Amazreen Memon, who's been painting for the past 20 years? So are you trying to say all that experience is gone and no, it doesn't work like that. So you have to understand that, like any, and I'm sorry I keep commercializing it, and but it is the only reality that, like every collectible, like every valuable, your strength lies in your consistency. So if you have a certain amount of strength that you have put on that piece of paper, there are artists who, like I keep saying, you could have practiced 20 years in a township, But if you have not stepped out of that township, then you have not, unfortunately, stepped out in the real world. That doesn't take away from you,
Mm-hmm.
but going to affect your pricing. Because today, like I told you, I can't just get up in the morning and say, you know something, I just know it all. And you want to speak to me, I charge $1,000 an hour or whatever it is. And the person is going to turn back and say, but who are you? Why am I? And that's what I keep requesting every, you look at what you are putting for yourself. Read that profile every day. And you discover those from your community. Where are those people at? You look at artists, even when when you're putting a pricing together. I know today there are a lot of price artists who are, well, senior artists, especially in Asia. They work on a square foot. And then I'll give you another example of a very close artist whom we know. Who launched one of the things we did was he was at the Bahrain Art Fair. Mashallah, today he's with galleries in Australia and New Zealand, and scaling. He doesn't have time to put works together, but that's it. He's made that route map. He made that graph. So all of a sudden it maybe an art fair in Bahrain was a stepping stone, but everything that came from there was his path for where I'm going next. So a lot of artists make this mistake, and I keep coming back to this one comment that a senior in age artist told me, I'm not an emerging artist. And I'm like, okay. It's there are artists we've known over the generations. There are artists who you're either there or you're not. If you're not, that's fine, because each artist can choose his pace. But today, for the longest time, ever since information has been at the tap of a button, your pricing has become key. And your pricing, I mean, you could Google, literally go onto any of these marketplace sites today and see, read up on the profile and say, okay, look at yours. And you say, okay, I'm good on my pricing because my competitors, that's what they're charging.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you say that a artist has been selling for X amount of dollars for the longest time, okay, then that's his pricing. And if he or she is getting that pricing across the board, why do you have to compromise it? The fact that you are compromising on your price, that means that there's a gap somewhere.
Yeah. So no, the question, so I agree with that. There shouldn't be a compromise. So, but the question is, do you think artists would still face that despite everything that you say? So what should their path be? So say somebody who is not perhaps knowledgeable, or is just wants to make the money, or just wants to, let's make it more positive. Say there is somebody who wants to represent a artist in Australia. Now that artist has never traveled there. He has had, or she has had, international exposure, has never traveled there. But say this person or this gallery or this organization says, we'd really love your work, we'd really like to exhibit you, but we want to kind of push the sales so that we hope that they are in people's homes. Would you be able to shift a bit on your price? Do artists face that? If they do, what should that answer be?
The answer should be that I totally understand it's a new market, and penetrating into a new market is tough. Why don't I send you smaller pieces? Why don't I send you miniatures so that you can put those out into the market? I've done that in my career for the first time with a lot of artists to say, you know what? You're getting $50,000, $75,000 on a particular series or whatever. But that's great for LA and that's great for whatever. My audience may not know you. Now, that doesn't mean you're at fault. That doesn't mean my audience is at fault. Okay, let's just do it in small doses. If your work is selling, or if your ink or oils or paperworks are selling at $50,000, give me your lithographs. Let them come to me at $2,000. Let me see what the market looks like. So the artist can go back and say, you know what? Why don't I give you miniatures? Because the point is, because the minute you have this paper, you look at, you show it to the gallery, or you show it to the person presenting you and saying, look here, I have worked really hard on establishing a particular price point with consistency. So there is an audience that is looking out for me, has been trusting my consistency and build up. I mean, it's as simple as today. If I've been collecting your works for the past 15 years, and tomorrow, because you want to enter a new market, go and slash your own pricing, and I walk
That's
into
unfair.
and I walk I mean, everything is at a click of the button. I may want to see a particular show of yours, not because I'm spying on you, but I just want to see it. And if I see that, oh, okay, what I bought 10 years back is today selling at the same price, do you think I would trust it again? Or do you think I would continue investing in that artist? So what I'm trying to say is that it is very important. And I'm telling you, I have physically seen it myself on artists who believe their seniority. And again, just by this tag of senior, junior, these are just high pressure tags that we take. Once you start believing that, oh my God, but I have been painting for so long. How can this guy who is 10 years younger than me have this price? I must double my price. And then when you see the price is getting stuck, you say, you know what? I'll just give you two for half the price. You've lost.
Everything.
You've lost everything, and you have taken away, not from me, not from the buyer, you have taken away everything from yourself. Because the rules of the game don't change. You sell yourself short, and and I say this across the board. I say this to artists, I say this to youngsters, I say this to budding entrepreneurs, I say this to my 19-year-old. You are as good as that reflection you see of yourself in that mirror and who you want to be. You take away from it today, that story is over. So all the more responsibility. I mean, I've gone and seen the youngest of artists, and again, I'm using young as a connotation in age. Okay, there is a particular group of them who say, oh, I mean, who's just been literally born yesterday, and my work is selling for $3,000, and I'm like, okay, good for you. Again, I'm not taking away from your work, but it's not important that you're selling for $3,000 today. When it's going to be 10 years from now, 5 years from now. If you are going to be at $3,000 or at $1,500 5 years from now, you need a rain check. And why will that be? Because people who have followed a consistent, real map, who have said, you know what, I've been in a zone, my price is X. I have worked on for the next 3 years to explore out of the zone. I have taken my price higher. Now I have explored even further. My body of work has changed. I have put in, I don't know what, like I keep saying, if with every artist I consult, the first thing I ask is, where is your working? Give me your drawings. Give me your rubbish. I want to see what do you scribble? Because that is your reality.
Like your studies before you get to the...
Absolutely. That's why every time I try not to use the word consultant, but every time I see a new consultant pop up, and I'm like, okay, so what exactly are you consulting? Like, how long do you know this person? I mean, I wouldn't. If I have so many people asking me for opinions on art, I can't give it because I don't know him. I don't know this person. I don't know his body of work. I don't know his mapping. I have people who have come to me, authentication of artworks. I don't know this person's body of work. Tomorrow, if somebody came to me authenticating that, okay, do you know if this is Mazreen's body of work? Okay, yeah, I've seen it over a decade and a half. I would be in a little position to comment. So whilst one is all whilst I'm sermonizing the artist, I'm also sermonizing the everyday new breed of experts who is emerging. You cannot authenticate art. It has to come from the artist if the artist is living. If the artist, God forbid, is not living, it has to come from not the nearest of kin, but somebody who has literally grown with that artist, somebody who has worked with the artist. That's
so yeah. I love that we have established that it's absolutely necessary to keep the price point and understanding. And I think it's a great way for people to know that, okay, if you're emerging into a new market and that's where you want to kind of break through, go with smaller works. Even perhaps then if the gallery says, oh, but these are homes, this is Australia, we have homes, we need, well, then the price stays. Maybe I can send one or two.
At the end of understand, see, everybody in any part of the continent understands the importance of good work. It is not a print, forget, I'm not even taking away from prints. What I'm saying is it's not something you've just picked up from the wayside.
Yeah.
Which is why your identity, like I said, it's a root shot and it hits you and it's not easy and you don't like it. I went through this brain space time again through COVID, where I wanted to exhaust my energy. And I'm like, what? Hello, okay, why didn't I just pick up a job for the fun of it? And then it turned back. And I would look around to my closest friends and I'm like, really? Like, you can't suggest a single job for me? And they would look at me and say, yeah, sure. For somebody who has really broken every bridge and barrier and I don't know, cross borders and worlds, now you want to do a job. But what they were being very decent in telling me, and what I then sat down and researched for myself, which is what I said, that the advisory was born out of my own experiences, is that, okay, where was your last job, Kanika Sabharwal?
Yeah.
What did you do? Where is that resume? Your resume, my bio data, or whichever fancy word I want to call it with, it reads entrepreneur from word go.
Yeah.
So how exactly one day, just because I have decided that, oh, something I have to try, can I just walk in with nothing and say, oh, you know what? So what if there are 10 capable CVs lying there? I'm deciding I want to do a job. It doesn't work like that.
So basically, be authentic to your identity. That is absolutely key.
Own your identity. Make your choices, and remember, they're going to be tough.
Yeah.
It's not.
As it is, art is not an easy. It's not an easy voyage. It's so subjective. You can
see, that's another thing. Every field that you step into, which is going to involve, first of all, a life lesson that we all learn, that nothing comes easy. And then when it comes to creativity, it gets difficult because it doesn't have a model. It doesn't have a formula. My daughter said a very nice thing to me the other day, and it irritated me. I don't like it when she's so smart in front of me. And she said, but I can't work like this. Something we were having a discussion on something, and I was like, okay, but why don't you explore it and why don't you try it? And she said, but I can't. She says, all my life I have worked with rules and methods. I mean, she's studying economics and history or whatever. She says, how do you want me to get all scattered all of a sudden? I can't. And it made so much sense because she's chosen a path. Now I can't just get up and say, oh, you know what, but why don't you also get creative?
Yeah.
It doesn't work like that. So similarly for the artist, it's not going to be easy because we don't want it to be easy. You want to scale, you want to try, you want to experiment, all your experiments, 9 of your experiments may work, the 10th may not work. It may just blow up on your face. And that's okay. But that doesn't mean that you will just, this doesn't work. Let me just try and reformat it. Like I told you, I don't know whether I mentioned it once. Initially, when I just begun consulting, and we all go through this. I mean, today I'm like, no, I can't do it. But at that time, I would be like, okay, you know what? At least I'll reach out to somebody. And I'm talking about 5 to 7 years back. And I met this artist who used to do a particular form of art. And she had a support program from somebody who would support her consultancy. And I was like, oh, fantastic, great. I said, but can't you consult you on this form of art because I don't know it. Mm-hmm. So she said, okay, then I will modify my form of art to what you can consult me on. And that's it.
That's odd.
Yeah. And then after 6 months, she was consulting people. And I'm like, okay, but again, it doesn't work like that. So this whole theory on emerging artists, on what is emerging? Emerging does not mean I am not an artist who doesn't know what I'm doing. No. Emerging just means I've been focusing on myself and my work. Today, I have decided that the world needs to know about me. That is going to take X amount of time. I'm willing to put in the effort.
Basically, like the actual verb, like you're emerging into all these and I guess growth. I would imagine.
Such a big thing, because it was such a big thing, and people are like, oh my God, I'm a senior artist. Don't put me next to an emerging artist. And I actually, for the longest time, was like, okay. I actually Googled the meaning. Listen, and I gave you again my own reference. If there is a particular zone in which I haven't worked, in a particular area who doesn't know me, and that's okay. But that doesn't mean I'm going to take away from who I am. So, okay, Carlos, you get to know me, then you come to me, then you engage me. Till then, I'm fine. Now, there are artists who come to me and say, but what do we do? And but we're dependent on our source of, and I completely get that. I completely get that it's really easy for each one of us to, sit and really be cool and speak, whereas I completely understand that the artist has needs. There are not all the artists who are socially at the same level or economically at the same level, and you have X amount of resources. Your art is one of the main sources of your resource. What do you do then? Again, I would advise you, it's sometimes better, pick an alternative source of revenue, even if it is not related to your art. Just don't take away from your art.
No,
Because
I completely believe that, because
yes, it's see, there are two sides to it. Like I said, I complete I have I completely get the fact that there are pressures, and there are professions that are tied up to, okay, I know X amount is going to come to me, and that looks after my rent and my kids' education and so on and so forth. But again, I would recommend, then find that steady source. Do not rely, and I'll take a break here and digress. When I got into art, if you remember, with Art Select, so I'm actually connecting a very triangular dot even for entrepreneurs, because here we are not only discussing artists, and I don't want artists to feel that they are left, or they're secluded in this rat race, or I remember my first couple of shows, and now when I can laugh about it now, and back then it used to bring tears to my eyes. So I would do these shows in Dubai, and it was fantastic because, my God, opening night, one would sell off half the show, and then there was this press, and there were people, and I was the star of the block. And one of the days, one of the one of the young press journalists, unfortunately bumped into my husband, and she said, "You know what? Wow, your wife is so cool. I mean, just look at her. She's just got into Dubai and rocked these shows." And she kept talking to him, and then after 45 minutes, she disappeared. Then came back. She's like, "Whoa, he's funny, and nobody's told me that about my husband earlier." I said, "Why do you say that?" He says, "No, I don't want to tell you something, but I will." And to cut a long story short, what he told her was that the day my wife eliminates all the cost of these shows that she puts up, and her own expenses, and the fancy bag she carries, and he says, and then she shows me the profit she has booked. I'll share this credit with you. Till such time, this is just the jam and jelly, because the bread and butter is taken care of.
Yeah.
I can promise you, I wanted to scratch him at that time, scratch his face, and I howled and cried, and we didn't speak for the longest time. But unfortunately, it was the hardest reality of life. We walk into professions, we walk into businesses with all this glamour, and that's another reason why you see a lot of, whilst huge amount of businesses are doing very well, there are businesses folding up every day. Today there's an art gallery, tomorrow there isn't. Today there's an art studio, tomorrow there isn't. I'm doing workshop, then it isn't, because you have just, what have you done? You've got an idea and you've run with it, correct? You've not looked back. You've not built an experience. You haven't factored in that what's going to happen after that opening night. You haven't factored in that if I'm going to carry a consignment or a shipment abroad, where's the shipping cost going to come from? Because trust you me, I have shipped single artworks, I have shipped as a gallery, and I have shipped institution. For when I was doing the project, when we used to ship, I don't know what, 2 tons, I'm not in shipping bills like that. Now try to bring that out from your operating profit. Where are you left?
No, so that is definitely, and I think we touched upon that some time back, that it's not always because even now, if I have to exhibit in, say, the UK, there are a lot of places I would love to. The cost of getting it, in fact, there was a painting that I'd sent, and then you ended up buying it. It was in the UK for a hotel in Bahrain. But I had to frame it because they don't want it to be, even if it's a gallery sketch, it had to be framed, boxed, sent. That was on me. Then it had to be taken to that location by somebody. Luckily, I had a friend who carried it there, and then pick it up at a certain time. And you cannot just so
That's it.
there's a
Flex,
lot that goes into it, and if you don't have the representation, it's all on you. So, and the
exactly
gallery takes a percentage when it sells.
exactly what I want to tell the artist, that if you are looking for a resource that is going to sustain you every day, every week, every month, then you need to find a constant, not take away from your art, because two things are going to happen, and that happens not only with younger artists, not only with artists who are trying to keep an economic pace, but it happens with most of the artists. What is a saturation level with an artist? A saturation level is, oh, you know what, this work sells at this price, I'm just going to keep painting it. And we've discussed this before.
Yeah, the fatigue.
You have killed it. I mean, you've done it to a certain level where nobody wants to see it. So again, you have taken away from yourself. So what I'm trying to say is, you have chosen to be an artist. It is your passion. It is your joy. Enjoy, live it, explore it, and earn from it, certainly. But it cannot be your bread and butter for you say, you know what, I have to paint 10 canvases and sell 15 canvases or something in a month. It's not going to happen. It doesn't work. It's not a commodity. I mean, it's like I had all kinds of questions and answers, and people I think for some reason, maybe either my persona or my personality, or the fact that I always do things larger than life, and my last order of business was the largest scale maybe a single entrepreneur of an organization has ever done. So people associated me with massive. Okay, if she's talking, or if a proposal is going to her, it's got to be loaded 50 times. And I just had to turn around and tell people, listen, let's get real. It is not a commodity. We all know that. I can survive without a new work or a new piece of jewelry. I don't need to eat it for breakfast, lunch, or dinner, which basically means it is a lifestyle choice.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I chose a lifestyle choice as an entrepreneur. You chose a lifestyle choice as an artist. So let's not put any morality, let's not put a necessity into it. Nobody asked either you or me, will you please become an entrepreneur who does art? Or will you please become an artist? So now if you've made a lifestyle choice, then do it with the same passion and growth. Commercialize it, certainly, but do not make it this whole theory, again, support artists. What does that mean? And I am for it, but I think it is misused on so many levels.
Oh, many coined terms have been misused.
Yeah. I was handling this budget, which was actually supposed to be with one clear mandate: to ensure the visibility and fairness on a common platform for all the artists of Bahrain. Period. And that's why I salute it every time, because honestly, the vision wasn't mine. I was told to do it, right? But it was not something I said, oh, I got up. I didn't get up from my bed one morning and say, I should create a program like that. No way. There was, of course, it was needed for the upliftment of the artists of Bahrain. It was a vision that was told to me as a mandate. But I salute it every time because it was a very balanced program. But I'm telling you, I had so many artists who said, oh, I haven't completed my artwork. Can I get a budget? Like, really? For what again? Even today, I see people saying, oh, but so-and-so doesn't support artists. Governments do not support artists. I have only one question. What kind of support are you talking about? Support meaning that, oh, I want to go today to this place in the world and I want to showcase myself. You think governments are allowed to do that? Can governments take care of individuals? No.
There are. Actually, those programs do exist here, which is why initially when I'd asked you that when we fill in, there are grants for artists. There are grants even for 500. Now, I know it's a whole different country. So if you want to exhibit, they even give you a grant for $500 where it takes care of your hanging, your
I have a corollary to that grant. On what basis are those grants given? Because it's really important. I see it all the time.
Oh, there's a long agenda. Everyone doesn't get it. So, but I'm saying I do agree that there should be support, but it has to be a curated support. because it cannot just be.
So I think that's exactly what I was coming to. That support is a very misused word. Support can mean what? Do you want to buy your paint? Do you need a studio? Who decides your needs? That's my problem. Usually what happens is, and I say this with due respect to all the artists, each one of us is looking at ourselves and looking at, oh, I want to do this. How is that going to add value to you? Today, if you're already in a particular space in France, hypothetically, I want to go and do a show in Nice. Okay, how is that contributing to where you are today? That is the corpus. That is where the corpus needs to go. And France, I have huge respect for them also, because I know how difficult it is to put a grant together, because you can never make anybody happy. No matter what you give, everybody's going to be, oh my God, you got it, I didn't get it. But again, you go back to the basics. Where is it taking you? Because
so definitely, when, at least in Canada, when you write the grants, it's very much, and you have to give a report at the end. How have you used the money? So there are a lot of really key questions, which is wonderful, I think, because I have applied. I haven't got any of the grants yet, but I've applied for 2 grants, and it's really wonderful because it makes you really think of your own path. It gives you the questions are so well balanced that you know, oh, I don't know about this. So then you've already lost yourself right there, which is great, because
I'm trying to say that we're constantly, see, the easiest thing to do or say is want. I want. And when I want and you don't give, then that's a problem.
Yeah.
That's the problem. That's the problem with all of us. You know, and that's where we need to stop, because you'll get that grant today. But trust you me, if you don't have a plan, and that is why I say third person, it is very difficult. It is extremely difficult as individuals. And I don't say this only to the artists or the creatives. I always give my own example. 3 years back, I kept saying, oh, but I wanted to keep doing what I was doing, not realizing that I've gone far ahead. I cannot do what I had done 4 years back, because it's done. But even as artists, oh, but she got it, and I want to do a show here. Really, why? There are 50 artists exhibiting here. You have already exhibited here. Why are you going there? What is it going to do for you? And then when you don't get that, then you go around blaming the society is at fault. And of course, these days people don't stop at anything small. You straight away hit the government. No, government doesn't support it. No, what do you want support for? That's why this whole support is low. I would like really for it to be rephrased into strategy. Let's strategize.
Oh,
together.
that I think strategy, like whether it's your brand, your identity, I think there is a strategy component has to be there. But on that note, we might have to wrap up, because I'm looking at the time like, oh, we're going to get cut off. But
I know. I was just seeing what 7 minutes to 8. Okay.
Yeah. But what I do want to say that I think what I would like to talk about next week is pricing will come and go, I'm sure, in all our dialogues, and how we, identify ourselves and how we can strategize moving forward as creatives. I'm going to say creatives because I think it could be even for authors, and I want to talk about how one can take on criticism and how to address criticism either positively or negatively. And I actually have a very interesting anecdote which happened to me on the last show that I was a part of. I know you did a solo show for me before I left as a parting gift, but before that there was a group show at the Hyatt, I think. And I have a very interesting anecdote, which all of you will have to come back next week, because I don't think Kanika knows of it too, which was really interesting. And it was criticism and what I did with it.
Okay. Before we leave, I try and give everybody homework. I have a homework for everybody who's listening.
Awesome.
Answer to your question on pricing. Each one of you, this is my pricing. I don't need to know it. This is my pricing today. Look around you, look around artists' profiles who have similar priced artwork. Can you find yourself there? Do you find yourself higher? Time to increase your prices. And if you feel you're not there yet, take that reality check today. Not for me, but for yourself. sometimes, it's better to take that giant leap and enjoy the fruit of holding back today. Yeah, so that's
Awesome.
home all the artists, and I love you all, and thank you. And I'm very, very sorry for the 10-minute delay. I thought it would be
Not at
5 minutes,
all.
overshot. My
Not at
apologies.
all. And I
Okay.
have both our links to how to contact Kanika through Art Select and her personal account. It is a private account, but she will take a look at whoever sends her a DM. And
I don't get cut, but I got a message and said, I told you that why don't you make yourself public? You'll be known to more people. And I just said, you know what? If they want to know me, they'll find me. So yeah, you know where to. Take care, all of you.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. And we will see you next week at the same time on Criticism, I guess, next week. Bye, Kanika. Thank you so much.
Bye. Bye.